welcome back to Sector 7. Today we're going to be talking about belts and kind of the updated rig that I'm running this year in 2024. It's been about a year since I've done a belt video, and a couple things have changed since then. And I really wanted to highlight my newest belt from Haley Strategic because I noticed that nobody's really covered it yet, and I really feel like it is the meta, at least for me. Now, my basis for comparison is limited. So even though I'm going to put some superlative title on this video, like best belt 2024 question mark, yeah, it's clickbait. Let's be honest. My basis for comparison is really just what I have run and owned over the past year since my last belt update. And I've only run 3 belts in that time, but there's 2 belts on this table that I'm getting rid of and 1 belt on my body that I'm keeping. So I feel like it's a pretty fair comparison. Today I'm going to be comparing the Axle Eclipse and the Core Essentials Combat Belt with the Haley Strategics D3's new release. So we'll take this off real quick. And I'm also going to go ahead and kind of cover how I'm running my belt in the year of our Lord 2024. So the first thing I want to talk about, though, is who are belts for? Who should own belts? And it's odd that this is still kind of a matter of contention among some people. I think that everybody should have a war belt. Everybody who is of the kind of prepared citizen or training mindset should have a war belt. Every single argument that I've seen made against having battle belts, war belts, pistol belts, whatever you want to call them, can be easily negated. So we'll start with why you should have a belt and then some quick arguments against having a belt, and ultimately circle back to why I'm right. And if you don't agree with having a belt, you're wrong. If you're looking at it from kind of a prepared citizen mindset, I don't want to dox myself too much, but just one kind of practical example is if you live really close to your kid's school, right? And you start hearing gunshots, and you know that it's pretty likely that you would be the first person on scene rather than a first responder, police, or, you know, there, you've got situations like the Uvalde Police Department who just stood there and let a bunch of kids die. I don't know about you, but I'm not the type of guy to ask permission when my kid is involved. I'm going to be trying to get right in there. And quite frankly, I'm not going to sit there and put on a plate carrier or a chest rig and helmet and all this stuff. I want to be able to carry a couple magazines of ammunition, carry a sidearm, carry some medical items on me, and be able to get rolling, right? And then the same principle in terms of the same principle applies in terms of expedience for across the entire spectrum from law enforcement to military. Belts just give you the ability to rapidly access your tools in a way that just rolling with a chest rig or a plate carrier or a fanny pack or an assault pack does not allow. So I kind of feel like it equally applies across the entire spectrum. You see the intersection between kind of the competition world and the tactical world in this sense, where for a long time competition guys were the ones that were really pioneering the usage of belts, and people have started to realize the benefits of those and repurposing them to their needs. Arguments against belts that you will commonly see is, you know, your average rifleman doesn't need a pistol, for instance, and that may be the case, especially some private in the Army who's not going to be entrusted with the usage of an issued pistol, something along those lines. And in that case, you would remove the pistol and you could substitute that space for something else or leave it blank. Or vehicle usage. So having a big fat med pack on the back of your belt isn't comfortable for extended periods of time in a vehicle. There's nothing saying that you can't substitute the location of that IFAK, that first aid kit, to some other portion of your belt, or delete it altogether and carry it on the body and keep that rear portion of the belt slick so that you're more comfortable and you're not having that lumbar pain when you're riding around in the vehicle. or belts aren't comfortable when you're rucking long distances. Well, that either means that the belt isn't set up correctly, or you've got too much shit on your belt that you need to sub out. Alternatively, one thing that I've done is just take the belt off and wrap it around the outside of the ruck, and then put the belt on when I'm working the objective or whatever LARPing that I'm actually doing at the time. So my view is that if you're first getting into the gear space, you should actually start with the war belt, then work your way to things like chest rigs, your second line equipment, chest rigs, plate carriers, stuff like that, and then work your way towards having sustainment in a ruck, etc. Not everybody's going to agree with that, but that's just my standpoint. Belts are also very convenient for training your fundamentals and isolating your fundamentals. So you don't always want to be in full kit at the range, but you still want to be able to train your reloads, whether it be like a speed reload or an administrative reload, or you want to have quick access to your tools like your multi-tool, flashlights, stuff like that. And you want to be able to have a little bit of medical on you in case there is a mishap on the range. So having that belt gives you this centralized platform that can move across the entire spectrum of the tactical and firearm space. So we're going to talk about the Haley belt today. Now, the first thing that I want to point out about this Haley belt is the ridiculous level of rigidity. And it kind of makes me think, like, when are we just gonna graduate to full-on exoskeletons or mech suits? Because, you know, you've got these rigid platforms, these structural cummerbunds and structural plate carriers. I'm wearing a Cry AVS right now, which has that two-piece system with the inner chassis and the outer plate bags so that it's structural. This kind of follows a very similar format as like a Cry AVS, or more accurately a Cry SPC, where it has this sleeve of plastic that slips into the belt, and it circumnavigates, it goes around the entire diameter of the belt to give it an extreme level of rigidity and structure that makes it feel like it's part of your body. It feels, this belt, unlike any other belt that I've owned before, just I don't feel it on me when I'm wearing it because the load is so evenly distributed. Commonly on the right side of your belt, where you've got your sidearm, is going to be the heaviest side because that's a good 5 pounds or so worth of weight hanging off of the right side. But on this belt, you can see as I hold it up, the whole thing is essentially rigid across the entire belt. And that's where it differs from some of these other belts, like this Axle Eclipse, which is made out of Tegris and follows a similar format in terms of the tuckable piece of Tegris goes into an inner sleeve in the belt, which you would think gives it a lot of rigidity and structure. But the problem with it is that the Tegris material is so thin and lightweight that it just flexes and contorts, and you can literally tie this into a knot on itself. Whereas with the Haley belt, it's got a lot more structure to it. When I compare the Haley belt to something like the Axle Eclipse, and I really don't want to hate on Axle. I love their products. My plate carrier's got Axle products on it. My hearing protection has the Axle amp arm adapters, which honestly, I'm probably going to switch back to the normal Peltor adapters, but I do run a lot of Axle products. I hate to say it, but this Eclipse was a miss for me. And the Haley belt kind of represents what I feel like Axle was trying to do while addressing all of the issues that Axle presents. So for instance, on this Axle belt, only half of the belt has this, the hook material, the Velcro hook material on the inside, which makes it not adhere to your inner belts very easily. It comes off from your inner belt really easily, which kind of defeats the purpose of running a 2-belt system. If I wanted something that's just going to be independent from my inner belt, I would just run a 1-piece system. And then this Tegris, I don't really understand the design philosophy behind why they only did half of the belt with the nylon material, this multicam laminate material here, and then did the lower half or the upper half, because it is reversible, in this Tegris. This exposed Tegris actually cut my finger. And if you've ever had a paper cut or you've ever had a cardboard cut, imagine a Tegris cut. Maybe I need to man up a little bit, like don't we all? But it was pretty excruciatingly painful. And the last thing I want for equipment that's supposed to enable me to conduct tactical operations is for that equipment to also injure me. Another thing that I really like about the Haley belt as compared to the Axel, this is more of a comparison of accessories than belts themselves. But I don't know how close we've got this right here, but Axel's attachment system for their different mag pouches, these are like $50 mag pouches, and the attachment system screws in. It's more Tegris, because whoever owns Axel discovered Tegris and decided they wanted to make an entire, like, base their entire lives around this material. So it's more Tegris, and it screws shut on itself rather than looping through like traditional PALS webbing or Molly. Haley likes the use of 1-wrap material on all of their pouches. And then you've got other guys like S-Tac who are still using stuff like malice clips and traditional Molly webbing for all of their attachments. We've kind of gone over why I've swapped over from the Axel to the Haley. And the Core Performance belt, or the Core Essentials belt rather, awesome belt. Some of the issues that I have with this is that its ratcheting system is really cool for its EDC belts, but I'm not sure how well it translates to a tactical belt, because this internal ratcheting system is the only way that the belt is secured. So if you were to pull on it with any respectable amount of force, I could easily see it shearing off from that plastic. That's those plastic teeth on the inside. So it has these plastic teeth, and that's its only form of closure. But other than that, it's a great belt, and it really kind of follows the traditional Molly belt structure. But it is a little bit heavy for what you get, and it just doesn't feel as comfortable as the Haley belt. And ultimately, that's kind of the biggest selling point for this current belt, is that any belt that I can wear that makes me feel like I'm not wearing a belt is going to be a massive improvement over the majority of other belts in its class. With this Haley belt, it comes with a really cool Cobra buckle that sometimes when you have a Cobra buckle closure, you'll find that the pressure being put on the Cobra makes it really difficult to disconnect. And I'm not sure what kind of voodoo magic they're pulling that makes it still really easy to connect and disconnect when it's on you, compared to other belts where you feel like you have to squeeze the belt closed a little bit just to undo the Cobra. So you're fighting the buckle. And then the tightening system, the tensioning system, is this piece of nylon right here that you pull to tighten the belt on once you slide the sleeve into the inner sleeve pocket of the belt to get it nice and tight on your body. They then have a big and respectable D-ring right here. Now, somebody let me know in the comments what this D-ring is for, because when you go on Haley's website, they tell you that it's not meant to bear load. It's not meant to suspend you or arrest you or use for rappelling. They don't specifically mention helo or helo operations or anything like that, but you can tell by the disclosure that they give that it's not meant to suspend a human. So I'm not really sure what this big D-ring is for. And if it's not meant to suspend a person, it is probably something that I would remove from the Haley belt. And I don't think that it's meant to attach other D-rings to, so that you can do things like hang gloves, especially in the ecosystem of Haley Strategic specifically, because they already sell this glove holder that attaches to the inside of the belt itself. So they, they clearly have thought into that being a problem. So we'll go over just my belt layout real quick and why I've got it set up the way I do and what I would probably change about it if I had the chance. So we'll start with the pistol. So we're going with the trusty Glock 17 in the Safariland Glock 34 holster, so that I've got enough room if I want to do muzzle devices or anything like that on the Glock. Hanging from a True North modular holster adapter, which attaches really well through the Haley belt. And then I've got a Shaw Concept Sidekick holster pad. Previous to this, I was running a Vastus system, which was cool. The whole concept is that it wraps around the bottom of your leg right here and moves and twists with you as you move your leg up and down, and keeps your pistol secure while you're doing that. On the Shaw Concepts Sidekick, they do have a little bit of laser cut kind of molly built into it, in case you want to, I don't know, attach like a throwing knife and do ninja stuff, or if you want to attach something like a tourniquet, something along those lines. For me, I'd rather just keep that area slick, keep it lightweight. Next up, I've got the Haley Strategic multi-tool pouch. I like this pouch. I'm not a huge fan of the pouch placement, and you'll see, and I'll kind of explain why in a moment. But when you want to access your multi-tool, generally you're going to have a firearm in your right hand. So having the multi-tool on the same side as your sidearm, or just whatever your dominant side is kind of less than ideal. So I'm probably going to find a way to move it over, but I didn't really have the real estate to do it at this time. And I think I'm just going to end up having to suck it up and swapping my pouches around again. But that being said, I always keep a multi-tool on my belt. Next, we've got the Axle Advanced IFAK, which is really cool. It's accessible from either side, and you can pop out your first aid kit. In my case, I've got a well-stocked first aid kit from Velocity Systems in here, and I like to be able to access it from either side like that. And then I've got the, I think it's a T-Rex Arms tourniquet holder going up, because so this sits in the small of my back so I can access it. If I were to position it on the bottom of the belt, it would be covered up by this IFAK and not be as accessible. So I like to keep it on the top. Then I've got the Spiritus Spud pouch here. I sing its praises every time I bring up the Spud pouch, but this is for my administrative reloads or extra equipment. You can put smoke grenades in there. Anything that you want can conceivably be put in this belt, and it can fit 2 magazines. So if I wanted to really load the belt down, I could carry a total of 3 rifle magazines on the belt. Then I've got my flashlight, and it would make more sense to take my handheld flashlight and swap it over to the location of this multi-tool, because a flashlight is a good substitute for a firearm. You don't always want to point your firearm at people to identify them. That is, as far as I know, against the law. So in most cases, unless it's a credible threat that you can articulate, right? So having the flashlight pouch on the right side and going for that first to identify people before swapping over to a pistol would be prudent in the context of civilian use. Because this Axle mag pouch is canted, I didn't want to put it on the right side over here, and I'm just going to end up swapping it out, and it will be kind of canted forward towards my pistol. It's going to be a little bit weird, but like I don't want to buy a whole new $40 pouch just to change the location of my light. And then I've got my S-Tac Kaiwi pistol pouch. Went right past it, but I've got an Eagle Industries Kydex rifle mag pouch here in black. I felt like the black would kind of mix it up a little bit. It was what I had available. And Eagle Industries really were pioneers in the Kydex mag pouch game. So it felt like, you know, a little shout out to Eagle Industries. Still love their equipment. They still have really good, affordable surplus stuff. But anyways, S-Tac pistol pouch. So I haven't found any elastic pistol mag pouch that that really has the same level of performance and comfort as the S-Tac Kaiwis still to this day. And let me know if there is one, because in terms of drawing and re-indexing, these are still like the meta in my opinion. So yeah, this is the Haley belt setup. Hopefully this kind of redeems my very limited relationship with Haley, because the first serious video that we ever made was pretty much me trashing their chest rig like 2 years ago. And to this day, I do stand by that opinion. It was kind of a miss for me in terms of the price to performance ratio there. But this is the polar opposite. So this belt retails for $190 and on their website, and it's a really good buy. Now, would I sell my other equipment in order to swap over to a Haley belt? That's up to you. I'm not going to tell a grown man what to do with his money. But for me, it's 100% worth making the switch, and I can't see anybody innovating to the point of pushing these guys out of the market anytime soon. And I would be thrilled to see that happen, because at that point, I feel like I'd pretty much have superpowers. This is my favorite belt that I've ever run. It's the new Haley D3. And yeah, I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet. That's all I've got for you. This has been Sector 7.